Hi guys, what's up? So I've got a guitar in and a bass in yesterday, and they're in for a basic setup, and this bass right here is going to get a basic setup consistent of Truss Rod Adjustment and setting the radius and the bridge height, and taking a look at the knot, and basically just going through the basic things here in order to make any guitar or any bass play like it should, knowing that it's set up to play like both the player and also to get it somewhere in the ballpark, and then being able to tweak it from there. But this right here is a Music Man Sterling Sub Series bass, 4-string bass here. Actually a really nice bass, and in a nice black color here with a black pickguard, a black pickup, 4 individual saddles down here, which is great because we can get the string height adjusted for each saddle. We can match the radius straight up and get that almost perfect. And for intonation, it's just going to make it easier because we can basically go in and adjust every saddle here. So hopefully that's going to be a breeze. So yeah, this is going to be a little video on how to set up a bass and how to do the the overall basics in order to make any bass play great. So there will be a couple of videos about this bass, guys. So the next little segment here, we're going to take a look at the truss rod, because we have to do the truss rod as the very first thing in order to get the next adjustments down the line correctly. So I will bring out the tools and I will bring you in and show you the next segment. So stay tuned for that, guys. I'll see you in a little bit. Alright guys, it's now time to take a look at the truss rod. And in order to take a look at the truss rod and get it adjusted properly, we are going to need a few tools here, and it's actually not a lot. Just the basic tools in order to get the truss rod turned, and being able to get a precise measurement of how much relief we have in the neck. So I have these 4 things here that we're going to use. I have a cable, which is going to go on top of the first fret here in order to take the knot out of the equation here, and we can basically use the fret as a straight line here, and we can take our thumb or our finger here where the neck basically meets the body, which is normally at the 17th fret. We can press it down here, and with our other hand we can insert a feeler gauge up here around the 7th or 8th fret. So in that order we can measure how much relief we have in the neck here. So that's what we're going to use the cable for, and the feeler gauge up here are what we're going to insert under the string, from fret top to string bottom, in order to see how much we have to turn the truss rod. And this right here is basically just a 0.016 inch feeler gauge, or 0.40 millimeters. So I'm just going to start with that and get the truss rod down to that measurement and see how the bass plays. Have to check for any bossing and fretting out and things like that. And in order to turn the truss rod, we have to find the appropriate Allen wrench, or basically you have to get the right tools in order to turn the truss rod, because otherwise you can end up stripping the truss rod out, making it impossible to turn it or get the nut out, and it's impossible to basically rescue anything from there without taking it to a proper luthier or tech. And the last tool up here is just my basic string gauge, and we have basic string settings down here, so I can put it on. I can basically put it on the bass here, measure and see where the strings are sitting, and I'm going to bring you in so you can see that a little closer when I continue with this. But these are the tools that we're going to use, and as I said, with the truss rod here, we're going to take the appropriate key. And on this particular bass, we have our truss rod sitting down here, and this is basically a straight up Music Man kind of truss rod. And I have this key, and it will basically just fit right in there, so I'm able to turn it in the direction that I will need it to be. So, and this is important, some basses have the truss rod down here, making the adjustments easier because you can access it. But a lot of other bass and guitars have the truss rod up here at the headstock, which is also a great thing because you can basically also access it and make the adjustments here. Wherever the truss rod nut is placed, you have to take into consideration your alignment or the way you're turning your Allen key, because remember, righty tighty, lefty loosey. And in this case, we have to place ourselves down here, basically looking up towards the headstock of the bass here in order to make that work for us. Because now we have righty will be, tightening the truss rod, and lefty will be loosening it. Okay, so, if we were standing up here at the headstock and doing the same thing down here, we just have the whole thing reversed, and you can do it like that. You just have to, think about it, that you've reversed the saying. I just find it easier to always place myself, facing the truss rod, so I know that we don't get any, misunderstandings and everything. So, just a couple of small things to keep in mind here, and basically the tools that we're going to use. So, let me just get the camera positioned so that, you get the most out of what I'm doing here, and I'll be back, guys. Alright guys, so the camera is repositioned here, and we're basically looking at the first fret here. And as I said, we're going to take the cable here, and we're going to place it right on top of the first fret in order to get a more accurate read out of it. So let me just zoom out while I place the cable, and we're just going to you're not going to set it very tight. Just set it so it will gently press down the strings in order for you to get an accurate read here on the fretboard. So it basically looks like this, and as you can see, we've taken the nut out of the equation here. So we have the strings running basically parallel the rest of the way down the body, so that's great. So right now it's time, as I said here, we have the cable on first fret, and we're basically going to go to where the neck meets the body. And if I take you down here, you should be able to see that we actually have the 15th fret right here and the 17th fret right here, and this is basically where the neck meets the body for the first time. So with my finger here, I'm going to press that down, and let me bring you up here in the middle so you can basically see when we get in a little closer here on the fret that we're actually going to measure on. So this right here would be the 7th, 8th and 9th fret. Okay, so I press down at the 17th fret where the neck meets the body on the low E string here, and I'm basically going to tap between the 7th and the 8th fret here to see, and you can see we have quite a way or amount of relief here in the neck, and it would correspond to doing the same thing on the neck strings just to check, yeah, and they're a way up, and also there, and on the G string here a way up. And basically this can be caused by a number of things, but right now we're only checking the neck, so getting the neck to a proper adjustment is going to allow us to continue along this, and when we have adjusted the neck, we might, you know, take the bass out and just play it for a little while and see, do we have any bosses, or do we have more boss than we started? And if we have, you know, you say, oh, it's bossing a lot more than it did before, then just take into consideration that we also have to take a look at the radius of the fingerboard, setting the bridge height down at the individual saddles in order to, you know, get it all right. So we have to take all that into consideration, because just by altering the neck relief here, if the saddles are set up, you know, in the wrong way down here or at a wrong height, you know, that will cause the guitar to buzz if they're set too low and not, you know, basically not matching the neck relief that we've just put into the neck. So, you know, don't get all worried about it if it ends up like that, but we have to take all that into consideration. So, okay, let me get you in here again at the 7, 8 and 9 fret. And as I said, I'm basically going to take this feeler gauge right here, a 0.016 feeler gauge, and I want to take the action, or sorry, I want to take the relief down to this measurement. So again, press down at the 17th fret where the neck meets the body, and I insert the feeler gauge right here on the 7th fret, and as you can see here, yeah, we have quite a way to go. So this means that we have to, you know, go down to the truss rod and do a little adjustment there. So let me get the camera positioned for that as well, and I'll bring it back in, guys. Alright, so we're in here again, and I've positioned the camera so you can get a look here at the truss rod and, you know, what I do. So as we just measured up at the 7th or 8th fret, we had a lot of relief in the neck. We have more than, you know, the standard 0.016 that I'm going to shoot for. So basically we have too much relief in the neck. So we're going to turn the truss rod so that we're going to straighten out the neck a little bit more. And the way we're going to do this is that we're going to insert the key here, and remember what I said before, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, and place yourself so that you're facing the truss rod. Okay, having done that, we're going to turn the truss rod now. And I have to make this neck a little straighter, so I will basically have to, you know, tighten the neck. So I would have to take the key and, you know, turn it this way to the right in order to make it turn to give me the adjustment that I want. Righty, tighty, lefty, loosey. Okay, so we're basically going to start with just turning it a little bit here, and going to see if we can turn it. Yeah, going to turn it a little more in order to being able to get to the next, you know, little hole here in the truss rod. And this is basically a quarter turn, and you know, at first I would, you know, start out with that, a quarter turn, because different truss rod, you know, in guitars or basses acts differently. So you know, start by making a quarter turn, and from there go back here and basically take a look at where we're at. So I get you in here again at the 7th and 9th fret. Still have the capo up here on the 1st fret. I'm going to take the feeler gauge again here, and I'm going to press down at the 17th fret, insert the feeler gauge again here, and basically see if we have any improvements. Okay, so the truss rod has been adjusted a little bit, but we still have some slack here. So we have to go back. Down here to the truss rod, and we have to, you know, we have to go in and turn it again. So let me zoom in further. I have to take the adjustment key here and insert it, and we have to give it, you know, quarter turn more here in order to see where we're at and what the truss rod is basically doing. So let me just get it fit here, and if I can do this. This wrench probably isn't the strongest, so I could maybe have found one that was a little bit, you know, stiffer, but it's going to work. It's not going to damage the truss rod or anything. Just make sure that it fits, and you know, if you feel it starting to slip or anything like that, just basically stop and find a proper key for it. So we've given it another quarter turn, and you know, some people say that after you've adjusted the truss rod, let it settle for a while, but you know, oftentimes that isn't really true, because you should be able to see the you know, the adjustments somewhat straight away. So you know, let's just see here. We're positioned again. I'm pressing down at the 17th fret. I'm bringing in the feeler gauge, and as you can see there, we now have a lot less, you know, amount of relief there. So that's basically, that's meaning two things for us. We know that the truss rod is working, you know, properly, and that's a very, very good sign. This is going to make this a lot easier, because I can, you know, move on, get the truss rod adjustment done, and I know that the truss rod works, and this allows us to continue setting up the space. So that's a great, you know, great thing. And we're able to get the truss rod down to where we like it. So that's number two. Okay guys, I'm going to reposition the camera so you get a more, you know, parallel look under here, so you can see what I'm talking about for the relief when I measure it. And we're going to do, you know, another quarter turn to see if that gets us right in the money. So stay tuned. I will just reposition the camera. The camera is repositioned, and you're now able to see, you know, parallel to this, in order to, you know, give you a better understanding of what I'm basically doing. So the cable is still fixed on the first fret. I'm pressing down with my, you know, pinky on the 17th fret where the neck meets the body, allowing me to use my thumb to see where we're at. So I insert the feeler gauge here, which is at the 7th fret, and I gently press down to see where we're at. And you can see the string is still moving. So we basically have, you know, double the amount that this feeler gauge is. So we have to turn the truss rod a little more. We can move it down to the 8th fret as well, and see, okay, it's still moving. So we will need to adjust the truss rod a little more, and this might only need to be, you know, another quarter of a turn. So I will leave the camera repositioned there, guys, and I'm just going to turn the truss rod as I showed you before. I'm just going to turn it another quarter turn in order to basically try to get it where we need it to be in order to get the relief down. So let me zoom in here again, get you a little more in the picture. And we should basically be able to see that the neck is starting to get where we need it to be. And the good thing is that this truss rod seems to work, and you know, it's just allowing me to continue the work here. So let's see, place it here again on the 17th. Still have a little bit, not as much as before. So I'm gonna give it a little turn again, basically to see where we're at. And you know, we should basically start to see that we are getting close to where we need to be, and allowing us to move on to the next setup adjustment here, which by the way is going to be, you know, taking a look at the bridge adjustment, adjusting the saddles, and taking a look at the radius, matching the saddles to the radius. So let me just tap right here first gently, and this is starting to look good. Let me start at the 8th fret here, inserting the feeler gauge. Yeah, we don't have, I would say that we're close. I would say that we're there, guys. Yeah, I would say that we're there. Maybe a little here, but I don't know if it's going to change anything. No, I would say that we're there. I can slide the feeler gauge in here without basically, you know, lifting up the string, and that is what we're looking for. So, you know, you should basically just be able to, you know, insert the tip here without basically moving the might still be a little bit, but it's nothing compared to what we had before. So I'm very pleased with this right here, and you know, we can now take off the cable up here, and you know, I want to show you a little thing here. I don't know if you remember it or, you know, paid attention to it, but on the other video before we went in and adjusted the truss rod, the angle down here was actually much more pronounced, this angle right here, because we had, you know, we took the knot out of the equation here, but the angle was much more steep, much more pronounced, and it is, you know, less pronounced right now, at least that's what I can see here. So could indicate that the knot is actually at a good height here, and we don't have to take, you know, that into consideration and slot it down. But we're going to take a look at it in, you know, some of the next videos in order to see if it's where we need it to be. So that's just great, and we can continue. So I can basically take off the cable now, and we should have the proper relief in the neck here so that we can continue our work. And as I said, we're going to continue with the bridge saddles down here. So I'll do that in another segment, guys, so stay tuned for it, and I hope this was helpful for you. See you.